Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves...
The sports world is currently holding its breath, staring down the barrel of a scenario that seemed impossible just 6 months ago, but now looks increasingly inevitable. We are witnessing a slow-motion collision between the old guard of the WNBA and the new economic reality brought in by a single player, and if the latest reports are true, the league is about to lose. We aren't just talking about a contract holdout or a little bit of off-season drama to keep the blogs busy. We are talking about the complete departure of Caitlin Clark from the WNBA, a move that would reportedly trigger a compensation package worth upwards of $100 million. This isn't just internet gossip anymore. Stephen A. Smith, the loudest and most connected voice in sports media, has effectively confirmed that the threat is real. He has spent months screaming from the ESPN desk, warning the WNBA that their culture of jealousy, their physical targeting, and their embarrassing salary structure are pushing their golden goose right out the exit door. If these rumors materialize, Caitlin Clark won't just be leaving the Indiana Fever. She will be shattering the entire infrastructure of American women's basketball to take a deal that finally respects her value. To truly understand why Stephen A. Smith is so furious and why this $100 million exit plan is even on the table, you have to look at the cold, hard math of the situation. It is numbers game, and right now the WNBA is losing it. Caitlin Clark is not just a rookie. She is a one-woman stimulus package for an entire economy. In her first season, she was responsible for a reported increase in league-wide revenue that some analysts peg in the hundreds of millions. We saw ticket prices jump by 300% in cities that didn't even have a team, just because she was coming to town. We saw TV ratings on networks like O and ABC shatter records that had stood for 20 years, beating out Major League Baseball and NBA playoff games in certain demographics. She brought the charter flights, she brought the cameras, and she brought the money. And what was her reward for single-handedly reviving the league's mainstream relevance? A rookie base salary of roughly $76,535. When you say that number out loud, it sounds like a joke. $76,000. It is a respectable salary for a mid-level marketing manager, but for the most famous female athlete on the planet, it is an insult. Stephen A. Smith called this out immediately, labeling it criminal and a disgrace. He pointed out the absurdity of a business model where the person driving 90% of the conversation is taking home less than 0.01% of the revenue. He contrasted this with the NBA, where a rookie sensation like Victor Wembanyama steps onto the court with a guaranteed contract worth tens of millions. The disparity is so offensive that it has created a massive opening for competitors. This is where the $100 million figure comes from. It isn't just a salary. It is a correction of the e-market. Outside leagues, private equity investors, and European clubs are looking at the WNBA's pay structure and seeing an opportunity to steal the biggest asset in sports simply by writing a check that actually clears. But if it were just about the money, Caitlin Clark might stay. She makes millions from Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm. She doesn't need the WNBA paycheck to keep the lights on. The real reason Stephen A. Smith believes she is looking for the exit is the environment, is the toxicity. From a moment she declared for the draft, there was a strange, hostile energy coming from the league's veterans, a resistance that felt personal. You had legends of the game, women who should have been celebrating the arrival of a superstar who could fund their pensions, instead going on national television to tear her down. Diana Taurasi warned her that reality is coming, a comment that sounded less like advice and more like a threat. Sheryl Swoopes, a Hall of Famer, went on podcasts and tried to minimize Clark's college records with factually incorrect statements, leading to a massive backlash online. Stephen A. Smith didn't mince words when he saw this. He called it exactly what it was, jealousy. He argued that the old guard of the WNBA viewed Clark not as a savior, but as a threat to their hierarchy. They spent years building this league in the dark, grinding for low pay and no recognition. And suddenly, This girl from Iowa shows up and gets everything they ever wanted without paying her dues in their eyes. Instead of riding her wave, they tried to crash it. SAS pointed out that in the NBA, when Magic Johnson and Larry Bird arrived, the veterans understood that these guys were about to make everyone rich. They protected them. In the WNBA, the veterans decided to haze her. This mean girl energy, as the internet dubbed it, created a locker room dynamic across the league that was undeniably hostile. And when you treat your biggest star like a villain in her own league, you shouldn't be surprised when she starts answering calls from people who want to treat her like a queen. The jealousy didn't just stay in the press conferences or on social media. It spilled onto the court in a way that was genuinely dangerous. The physical toll on Caitlin Clark this season was unlike anything we have seen for a rookie. We all remember the Kennedy Carter incident. It wasn't a basketball play. The ball wasn't even in play. It was a hip check sent directly into Clark's back, sending her sprawling to the floor, followed by cheering from the opposing bench. It was a message, and the league's reaction, absolute silence. It took massive public outrage and a media firestorm led by people like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee for the foul to be upgraded to a flagrant. SAS went nuclear on First Take, demanding to know where the protection was. He compared it to the treatment of stars in the 80s and 90s. If you touched Michael Jordan, you dealt with Charles Oakley. If you touched Wayne Gretzky, you dealt with an enforcer. But in the WNBA, it seemed like it was open season on Caitlin Clark. Stephen A. Smith argued that this physical targeting is the number one reason she might look at a European or private league deal. In Europe, the game is different. It is less about hazing the rookie and more about playing skill basketball. The referees protect the talent because the clubs have invested millions of dollars in them. Why would Caitlin Clark stay in a league where players are trying to hurt her out of spite, where the commissioner refuses to suspend head hunters, when she could go overseas, get treated like an asset, and make 10 times the money? The toughness narrative the WNBA tried to push backfired. It didn't look tough. It looked bitter, and that bitterness is pushing her toward the door. Now, let's dig into the specific unrivaled league threat, because this is where the $100 million rumor starts to find its legs. This isn't just a hypothetical. The Unrivaled League is a new 3-on-3 basketball league founded by WNBA stars Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. They realized early on that the WNBA salaries were a joke, so they created an alternative that pays players six-figure salaries for just a few weeks of work in Miami. It is built to keep players home from overseas. But for Caitlin Clark, it represents something much bigger: equity. The rumors swirling around the negotiation suggest that the offer for Clark isn't just a salary. It is a piece of the company. The WNBA cannot legally offer her ownership. They are bound by a collective bargaining agreement that caps her earning potential. The Unrivaled League has been applying a full-court press to sign her. The initial reports suggested an offer of over $1 million for less than 3 months of work, already more than 10 times her WNBA salary. But as the WNBA season became more toxic, the rumors grew. Insiders suggest the offer has expanded to include revenue sharing and long-term equity that could balloon her earnings into the stratosphere. If she takes a deal like this, she fundamentally breaks the WNBA's monopoly on her time. Stephen A. Smith has pointed out that this league proves the market is ready to pay her what she is worth. The WNBA is no longer the only game in town. If she can make $5 million playing 3-on-3 in Miami for 2 months, why would she grind out a 40-game season in the WNBA for $76,000? But the Unrivaled League is just one piece of the puzzle. The true nuclear option has always been Europe. History tells us that the European threat is very real, and the WNBA executives know it better than anyone. We have seen this movie before. Diana Taurasi, widely considered the GOAT of the WNBA, literally sat out an entire WNBA season because her Russian team paid her more to rest than the WNBA paid her to play. Think about the insanity of that statement. A foreign team paid a WNBA star to take the summer off because she was too valuable to risk injury in America. The economics of overseas basketball have always been superior. Teams in Turkey, China, and Spain are backed by massive sporting clubs or government-adjacent funds that treat basketball as a prestige project, not just a business. For Caitlin Clark, a move to a EuroLeague giant like Fenerbahce or a Spanish club will be a complete lifestyle shift. We're talking about private drivers, luxury apartments, personal security details, and a fan base that worships the ground she walks on. There is no hazing in Istanbul for a player of her caliber. There is only adoration. Stephen A. Smith has alluded to this global option as the ultimate leverage card. If the WNBA doesn't fix the CBA, Clark can simply take her talents to Europe. She would become a global icon, selling out arenas in London, Paris, and Madrid, while the WNBA fades back into the niche obscurity it occupied before she arrived. The 100 million figure likely aggregates the potential of a massive multi-year European contract combined with the freedom to tour globally, similar to how the Harlem Globetrotters or Premier Soccer Club operates. Let's talk about the Dave Portnoy factor because it adds another layer of financial reality to this drama. Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, publicly stated that he would find the money to start a new league specifically for Caitlin Clark if she wanted to leave the WNBA. He threw out the number. I'll give you $100 million to start our own thing. While critics dismissed this as internet bluster, Stephen A. Smith and other analysts recognized it for what it was, a proof of concept. It showed that the private sector values Caitlin Clark at roughly 1,000 times what the WNBA values her at. It's the Lionel Messi effect. When Messi went to MLS, he didn't just get a salary. He got a cut of the Apple TV subscriptions. He got equity. The WNBA is bringing a knife to a nuclear war by trying to keep her on a rookie-scale contract when moguls are offering her ownership stakes. The scariest part for the WNBA is what we call the Caitlin economy. Stephen A. Smith has been obsessed with the ratings numbers for a reason. They're the only thing keeping the league afloat right now. Before Caitlin Clark, the WNBA was struggling to maintain consistent viewership on major networks. With her, games on ION, ESPN, and ABC were shattering records. The Indiana Fever became the most watched team in the league by a mile. Opposing teams moved their games to bigger arenas, from 4,000-seat gyms to 18,000-seat NBA arenas, just to accommodate the ticket demand she created. This revenue didn't just help the Fever, it helped everyone. It funded the charter flights, it boosted the salary cap projections for the future. If she leaves, that economy crashes. It is that simple. The casual fan who tuned in to see the girl from Iowa shoot logo threes isn't sticking around to watch the Connecticut Sun play a defensive struggle. They are watching Caitlin. If she is playing in Europe, those eyeballs follow her to YouTube streams or international broadcasts. The WNBA recently signed a historic media rights deal valued at $2.2 billion over 11 years. That deal was signed largely on the promise of Caitlin Clark's future. If she walks away, the networks, Disney, Amazon, NBC are going to be looking at a product that is suddenly worth a lot less. Stephen A. Smith warned the league that they're playing a dangerous game with their broadcast partners. You cannot sell $1 billion package based on a star you are actively driving away. Stephen A. Smith has directed a significant amount of his frustration at WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. He accused her of fumbling the bag in a historic fashion. His argument is that the commissioner's job, first and foremost, is to protect the money, and Caitlin Clark is the money. When the jealousy narrative started, when the hard fouls started, when the race-baiting discourse took over the media cycle, the commissioner was noticeably quiet. She tried to play both sides, not wanting to alienate the veterans, but in doing so, she left her biggest asset on an island. SAS argued that a stronger commissioner, like David Stern in the NBA, would have shut that down immediately. He would have fined players for targeting her. He would have mandated that the league embrace the star, not hazing her. By failing to intervene, the league leadership validated the toxicity. They made Clark feel like the WNBA didn't want her there, and that incompetence is a valid reason for her to leave. Why work for a boss